I had my best friend die when he was 14, overdosed. He was like my best friend where we stayed the night every day. You know, after school, I'd ride the bus home. He lived in my neighborhood, so we were close. He died when he was really young from mixing alcohol, benzos, and opiates, just like a suicide note, basically. We used to do that all the time, mix all these bad stuff together when we were really young. And so when he died, I made a promise to myself that I would never mix alcohol and pills. I made that promise to him. He was right there in his coffin, you know what I mean? And I made that promise to him right then and there. And I always tell people that he, in a way, saved my life.
Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
My guest today is Andrew Velasquez, and I know him from shooting some film for me at our real estate event and other events, and it's super helpful. But I know he has a cool story. So, Andrew, can you kind of tell us your story?
Absolutely. So, my parents are pastors. That's been an integral part in my life, and it's kind of set me apart. I've always been a PK, and a lot of people are surprised by it just because of my past and my history. But so I grew up going to church, you know, my whole life. I have an older brother that's 16 years older than me, and then my next oldest is 14, and then the next is 6 years, and that's my sister.
Okay.
So a decently sized family. We always had cousins over. It was always crazy. And then everyone started moving out a little bit, and then eventually it was just me. And I've always tried to look at it and try to figure out what led, because I had a great childhood, you know what I mean? My parents loved me. They raised me good. You know, my mom taught me, you know, just how to be a man, basically. Not my mom, but my mom and my dad. And so what it was that kind of shifted me is like I had all of this, there was always something going on. And when all of that left, it was just kind of like me. And so I was trying to find that brotherhood or that camaraderie of just something always going down. And I guess the people that I found that in were into drugs. And so long story short, I actually started really early, like in junior high. I started experimenting, popping pills, and then eventually that turned into snorting. And then eventually it got to a point where I didn't want to pay for it. So I was like, how do I get this for free? Because it got expensive. So I started selling it, or I'm actually middleman, and then I started selling. And so that changed the trajectory of my life, basically. And I started that basically in high school, I think. And the other part to it is while I was in high school doing all of this stuff, Moore Norman had just opened the video production. And so video production was something that I've always been into. I used to game on computer, and I had to create highlight reels. So I just remember when I was younger, I would edit my highlight reels, and I would stay up really late editing it and try to cut it to the music. And I love that. And so that's kind of where my business started, was back in high school, going to school for the video production. And so that whole time, though, I was also doing drugs, but I loved the video production. That's like the only thing that probably kept me in school, was the video production. And then, so of course, I didn't do anything with it when I got out of high school, because I was selling and using and just really wasting my life away. I think I had an over...
Did your parents know?
At some point they did, and they even knew, like when I moved out, I was able to keep it away from them, keep it hidden from them for a while. But when I moved out and they eventually knew something was up, they didn't want to believe it, but they always told me like, hey, if you go to jail, you know, we're not going to get you out. So they kind of knew, but didn't really know, or they didn't want to know maybe. And they always said that they would help me. There came to a point where they did, you know, they knew more and more, as they wouldn't give me money, or, you know, or they would just, you know, take me out to eat or something, you know, but they wouldn't give me cash because they know better than that. But I've done because of the drugs, I've done a lot of messed up things that this is where I sometimes get emotional too, because I feel like my family should disown me from what I've done, but they, you know, like Christ, they've loved me unconditionally despite my wrongdoings. You know, I've done terrible things to my parents and my brother and, you know, the church, and just stolen and all sorts of, you know, crazy. So I can go on about the bad stuff that I've did trying to get, you know, high basically and get my fix. And at first it was, you know, fun and trying to fit in, and eventually it becomes where you can't operate without it. And so you're legit addicted. And then if you try to get off it, you're sick. It's terrible. It actually makes me sick to my stomach thinking about it. So eventually, though, my aunt and uncle own a rehab in Georgia, And it was one
You
Sunday.
said they own a rehab?
Yes, they
Okay.
have a faith-based rehab out in
Okay.
Atlanta, Georgia. And it was one Sunday, though, I would still go to church and stuff like that. And my dad didn't even have an altar call or anything, but randomly I went up front and I just started bawling my eyes out. And that's kind of when I made the decision to get help. Of course, that same day, I guarantee you I used, but at least I had that moment where it's like I'm breaking, you know what I mean? Like that's what we always tell people, you got to be broken before you want to change. So long story short, I went to Atlanta for about 9 months, and then I stayed there for a total of like 3 years.
Okay.
Got clean, everything was good. And then I got married, I basically moved back to Oklahoma to get married and have a kid.
Okay.
And then me and her ended up getting divorced pretty early on. Just didn't work out. Toxic relationship, basically. And then I don't know how long it's been, but I met someone new, and then she had a child as well. So now I have a about to be 13-year-old and then a 9-year-old, about to be 10-year-old. And we've been married, gosh, this is always hard too for me because I always forget. But we've been married almost 6 years, but we've been together like about 8 years, and that's my longest relationship actually.
Okay.
I've always been afraid of commitment, and or at least I think that's what it is. But you know, like a year probably would be like my max. So this has like been my biggest relationship. But yeah, so just all that bad stuff with the drugs and all of that, and then but luckily I've been able to get out, and it's not perfect. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I definitely, when I came back, I relapsed. For sure. But I think it's about learning and growing. Like I know what I need to do to not go back to that lifestyle.
Sure.
And so, and even now, like there's still things that I need to keep doing. Like it's a constant, you know, it's definitely getting easier. Like I don't have temptations like I used to. It comes kind of randomly. But yeah, it's going really good now.
If you want to wear a billboard of a message of kill complacency or live intentionally, then check out my merch store. It's www.mindsetshop.com. Mindset is with an X, so it's MINDXET shop, SHOP.com. Mindsetshop.com.
COVID hit, and I was not making a lot of money, so I filed for not bankruptcy. I got the
stimulus money.
The stimulus, yeah, because I was making like $1,000 a week, so I definitely.
Oh, the unemployment.
Yeah, the unemployment. That's what I meant. The unemployment. They were giving us a lot of money, and so I basically tried to take that as much as I could. But during that time, I started researching again because it had been almost a decade since I had done video stuff. And so once they stopped doing the unemployment extra money, I went and got a job at Amazon warehouse.
Okay.
And I was working the overnight shift, 12-hour shifts. It was terrible. I hated it. But I did that for about 3 years. But
wow.
During that whole time, though, I was researching, saving, doing everything I could because I knew the direction. I wanted to do video. I was like, I have a skill set that not a lot of people have. Went to school for it. Like, why not do it? And so I figured out what I needed. I started using my phone. I bought a light, bought audio, and just started going for it. And then I didn't meet Tez, but we went to school together.
Okay.
And he told me, I saw a post that he had got burned by a video guy one time. I was like, bro, you need to hit me up. Like, just hit me up. So eventually he did. And he loved the videos that I made. A week or two later, he took me out to San Antonio. And I told him, I was like, bro, I'm going to quit my job. And I'm just going to go for it. And he was like, do it. And when we got back, I was like, bro, I called him the next day. I was like, I quit my job. He's like, bro, I thought you were going to put in your 2 weeks. And I was like, well, I tried, but they said that you could just basically it's weird how they do it. It's weird. I didn't think that you could do that, but they allow you just to quit whenever you want. Yeah. And because I got to a point where I was losing money, like where I would get gigs and it's like, I can't go because of my job. So that's really what made me make that decision of, just quitting.
Yeah, all in.
And now it's like my 3rd year full time with Sola Productions, and I don't keep track about my recovery date, like of how long I've been sober, but it's been a while now for sure.
Take me back, Andrew, to that day in church. Was it the sermon? Was it just the Holy Spirit? What broke you?
Holy Spirit for sure, because like I said, he didn't have an altar call. He still talks to me about it, and he was like, normally it makes sense if he made an altar call, but what it came down to is just like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was living on my friend's couch. I'm allergic to cats. They had a bunch of cats. I had to donate plasma to get my fix, you know, and I wouldn't even use that money to go eat. I wouldn't eat, and I would just go and use. So that's how bad it got. And I was just like, this is not me. Like I know God has more for me in store, you know, and so yeah, now I'm married, have kids, I have my own business, I have a house, you know, and but yeah, so it was definitely the Holy Spirit, but I think too, he had been already working on me for a while.
Sure.
I don't think it was, I mean, it was kind of like a random moment because like I said, he didn't even have an altar call or anything. I just went up there and just started praying, and then out of nowhere I just started sobbing, and that's kind of what made the decision.
Imagine how, now that you're a dad, imagine how your parents felt seeing you broken that day. Because I know it sounds terrible, but if you know your kid is living a bad life, you're actually praying that God will break them. No,
for sure.
So
that's what Jesus, you know, whenever the lamb went off the way, he broke his legs and put him on his back, you know. And I'm definitely a prodigal learner, you know what I mean, where you can tell me not to do something, but I may not do it, but I may do it, and I may have to learn the hard way. That's kind of how I learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Give me a tip or two. Let's say I'm your parents. No, let's say I've got a 15-year-old kid, junior high, you said. Was that 13?
Yeah, I was about 13.
Okay. Let's say I've got a 13-year-old and he's starting to wander. And I think that maybe he's hanging out with the wrong kids who I know parents aren't the greatest or whatever, or leaning toward drugs.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for that parent or that kid at this point?
Definitely prayer. And I know at that point you do have control because they're under your roof. So definitely setting boundaries and guidelines of, you know, what's acceptable at our house and not. But the other thing too more of like a negative thing that I see parents do is that they'll love their kid to death, where essentially they'll, you know, kind of like where if I were to ask my parents for $20, they give me $20 and I say it's for food when they really know it might go for something else. Or if I do screw up and I go to jail, them bailing me out of jail and getting me out of that situation. Yeah. Like, you know, whenever Adam and Eve, when they sinned, you know, God banished them from, you know, from the Garden of Eden. And so it's a good lesson for us to learn that, you know, we do have to discipline our kids sometimes and set those boundaries. But that was the biggest thing that my parents did is they loved me unconditionally. Like no matter what, they were always there for me. Even if it was, you know, I did actually go to jail one time for 10 days for something that I didn't even do. And I told my parents, I was like, it's not like, and eventually the detective on the case is the one that got me out of jail, but they stuck to their word. They were like, we always told you, you went to jail. And this time it was nothing I even did.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that would be probably the biggest thing is just, you know, pray for them, love them unconditionally, but just don't love them to death. You know, you got to set those strict boundaries.
So, you know, then another verse in the Bible is grace triumphs over judgment. So even when your kid deserves X, Y, Z, still be gracious toward him. But there's a balance between that and tolerating and putting up with poor choices.
For sure.
And do you feel like, I mean, I feel like you kind of touched on it. You were looking for a community or acceptance. I mean, I feel like that's where a lot of bad habits start. I don't care what age you are, right? We're looking for acceptance and community. And so we look for it and we find it wherever. And we do different things to get it.
Yeah.
And across the board, it's the same, but it's different. You know what I mean? Is there anything you think that your parents could have done different to give you better community?
I don't know, because even with that, like I had a strong community with the church.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And like with the youth group, like after church, we'd go eat Taco Bell. You know what I mean? We had and I wasn't even like doing drugs with them or
Sure.
anything. It's like I was really had another part of it.
You
that
were a poser.
Yeah, exactly. I think I like secrecy a little bit, like where I like to keep. I'm not supposed to do something, but having this little secret, you know, it may not even be like a really bad secret, but just like, you know, maybe I don't know how to explain it, but I think that was part of it. I was almost living two lives, you know what I mean? Where I had this church life, and then I had Drew, the drug dealer, you know, addict, you know, that a lot of people know on this side. And so, yeah, exactly like you said, it's like I'm a poser basically, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not trying to point my finger.
Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes because I have different things going on. You know, I do have a podcast. I'm a real estate investor. But something a lot of people don't know is I shear alpacas, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but to the alpaca breeder, that's all they know me as. And then the other thing I do is I run. So there's people on Strava that just know me as a runner.
Yeah.
So I feel like that a little bit even at my age. Like certain people just see certain glimpses of me.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily trying to hide.
Yeah, mine was definitely a little different than that, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Mine was like an internal battle with myself and God and all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was the the turning point was in church. Then you sign up, you go to Georgia, you get help. What was the hardest challenge for you in that?
I thought in my head, like, I'm just going to get God back. Because I had basically, you know, turned my back from God, basically. Yeah. But I eventually learned that he was there the whole entire time. But I always thought when I went to Georgia that I'll just get God back in my life. It'll be so easy. Like, just get God in your life and you're good. And I do believe that God can, you know, miraculously heal someone from their addiction. But for me, I had to learn a lot more about myself than just getting, you know, I had been in the church since I was a baby, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know. But so the hardest challenge for me for sure, was just having to look at myself and like literally strip all the bad and look at all of the bad and the pain that I've caused. They had me do basically inner healing. That's what it was actually. Yeah. Like you start out and go through these stages. By the end of it, though, you're doing inner healing. And I also had my best friend.
Like, can you give me an example, Andrew? Inner healing. Like,
of inner healing?
Yeah.
So,
is it like forgiving yourself or?
Part of it, but it's really about I had to bring up like every person that I've slept with, all these soul ties that I've had with different people. I had to look at, you know, people that I've caused damage to, like my brothers and my parents and all of the harm that I've caused. And they do some other workshop type stuff. Like I had my best friend die when he was 14. Overdosed. And I always tell people he was like my best friend where we stayed the night every day. You know, after school, I'd ride the bus home. He lived in my neighborhood, so we were close. And he died when he was really young from mixing alcohol, benzos, and opiates. And like that's just like a suicide note, basically. And I always tell people that he, in a way, saved my life because when I saw him die from that, because we used to do that all the time, mix all these bad stuff together when we were really young. And so when he died, I made a promise to myself that I would never mix alcohol and pills. And so I always say that he kind of saved because I made that promise to him when he was right there in his coffin, you know what I mean? And I made that promise to him right then and there. And so I always kind of say that. But that's another part in the inner healing because I had never really done like the funeral. It was hard for me to even go. Like, I don't even know if I really cried or like got to weep or like deal with that, you know? So that was another part of inner healing. So they say, imagine or put yourself back whenever you heard the news that your friend died. And, you know, and then they kind of say, you know, imagine, you know, Jesus being there with you, just kind of comforting you. And so there's different workshops that they do to try to do the inner healing. But the biggest challenge definitely was there's a lot of stuff that I do that I don't even realize that I do. So they have a community around you where they basically kind of gram you. Where if you have a bad attitude or maybe a spiritual positive or a spiritual negative, they can gram you on that with love. So like, you know, hey, this morning, hey, Marty, I love you. Good morning. I love you. But this morning you cut me in line. You know, it could be small stuff, you know, just a way to speak truth and love. But in doing this, and sometimes it comes out silly and sometimes you're like, man, like I didn't realize I did that. And so having to look at all of the bad in me is kind of essentially is what was the hardest thing because here I am, I think I'm perfect and I'm such a nice guy, but yet I'm realizing like we're all screwed up, you know what I mean? Like no one's perfect, and it's okay, you know what I mean? It's okay to know that sometimes I'll manipulate somebody, you know what I mean? It's like, but what am I going to do about it? Am I just going to keep manipulating people, or am I going to realize that I can manipulate people and try to make a change?
Over the years, I have been coached by countless mentors, and now I want to offer that to you as well. How? By Marty Hofmann's Life Coaching. This will be a 6-week program in which I will guarantee you will develop a more growth mindset. We will set goals and learn about the importance of the processes and habits behind those goals. I will also help you see your story differently as things happening for you, not to you. We will also be discussing your future self and give you clarity on who that is and what it looks like. For more information, please follow the link below or hop on martyhoffman.com and follow the coaching link. I've got a buddy right now. He was a college buddy, and yeah, like everyone can see his mistakes but him. And it's like, I wish he would do that exercise.
Yep.
Because he's just a jerk to his wife and kids. It's like, come
they
on,
can
buddy.
see the splinter in your eye, but not the log in their own.
Yeah, and it's like, come on, man, like, shape up, because you're just wasting your life. You're wasting other people's lives.
Yeah.
So that's a cool. So they help you see your. So you said the hardest thing was really figuring out your own.
Yeah, and just
flaws.
and having to just look at the stuff that you kind of didn't want to look at, you know, like the pain that I would have caused my parents, and like that's it gets me emotional just because I feel like, again, I told you, I feel like they should disown me, but still they love me, you know what I mean? And even though I've, you know, paid my brother back for some stuff that I did with him, I still have like guilt for what I've done, and I've paid him back, and he's still like, man, you don't even have to pay me back. Like, I forgive you. It's over. Like, I don't even think about it. And it really affects me just because that's not who I am. Like, I am a terrible person when I'm on drugs. Like, I am not the same person. They always, in Genesis, which is the rehab in Atlanta, they always say you have like 2 dogs, you know, the red dog and the blue dog, basically. And they always say starve what you want to kill and feed what you want to grow. But I kind of essentially looked at it like that, where it's like I have 2 dogs inside of me, and, you know, this is the dog that is an addict, manipulator, liar, you know, cheater, all of the bad stuff. And this is who God intended me to be. And it's like I have to kill this dog, and so that way and kill by not feeding it, and then feed this dog to where this dog can take over this dog, so to speak. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it gets easier and easier too as, you know, I get older and as time goes by. But it's something that I'm constantly having to, I could be driving past somewhere and see something from my past, you know, a hotel or whatever. Yeah, McDonald's, and it randomly would trigger me. And I feel like it before it would be like maybe 30 minutes of me thinking about it, but now it's like 20 seconds and it's done. You know what I mean? Like it pops up in your head and it just goes away. And that's brings me to another thing. The one other thing that's also helping me kind of keep my sobriety. So my sobriety right now too is, I'm a firm believer, it's actually scriptural too, but whatever is hidden in the light, and bring it to light, basically, so it can be revealed. And that's like the biggest thing with me, because typically for relapsing, you're going to relapse in your head first.
Sure.
You're going to think about it first, and then you're going to act on it. So if I can stop from getting in my head to acting on it, and the way that I do it now is like, if I do have a thought and I can't get it out, I bring it to light. I tell somebody. I'll tell, you know, someone above that, you know, a peer, or, you know, my
anybody.
wife. Yeah, anybody. Just bring it to light, because if I keep it in darkness, I'm going to, somehow the devil's going to use that, and I'm going to end up relapsing. You know what I mean? So understanding that concept as well has really helped me keep my sobriety, you know?
It's powerful. And you know, the other thing that happens then is you're honest.
Yeah.
And you're authentic, and regardless of what that thought is, it has way less power when it's brought to the light.
Exactly. That could be applied to anything too. Even if you're on a diet, you know, trying to eat a Cheeto or something.
I really want that donut right now.
Yeah, donut.
Well, you can't have it.
Craig Rochelle, I liked what he talked about that, because he always says, just remove the temptation. If you're having issues, you know, eating cookies late at night, don't buy cookies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I struggle, though, is I have two girls that love their little desserts and stuff. So they'll go and buy cookies, and I go in there.
You know, Andrew, my thing years ago, I bet for a decade I did this. Every night I'd put the kids to bed, and I'd get out the ice cream. And I would just eat it out of the box. Sometimes I'd put it in a bowl. But my wife and she would make tea. And my wife is really big on, she's going to tell me once, and after that, she's going to pray for me. And she would, I eat out my ice cream and I eat my ice cream. So that was my thing for many years. And it was just a habit. And I mean, no, that's a silly little thing, but it was a legit, like, same thing. Like, I had to get rid of the ice cream.
Yeah.
If I didn't buy it, I didn't eat it. It was that easy.
So wait, do you still drink ice cream? Or not drink, but eat ice cream?
I do, but
run a lot?
I do, but it's,
Not every night.
maybe once a month we'll get some, and I've got a house full of kids, so it's gone.
Yeah, that is true, yep. I get that.
Sometimes I'll hide it to try to get 2 nights out of it, but it's usually, I've got a Boaz. He'll find it, typically.
That's funny.
I'll be thinking, I'm gonna go get that tonight. Nope, it's gone.
My daughter just did that to me. We had some Twix or something, and I was gonna go grab one from the bag, and come to find out she had hid him in the fridge, and I should have checked in there. But yeah, I understand that for sure.
I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.